Good morning, guys, and welcome to my studio. I'm Ellen from the Chili Dog here with another live episode of Unwind with Fiber Arts. Today I'm going to be doing some weaving on my rigid Heddle Loom. I'm making some dish towels today. And if you have any comments or questions as I'm working along, or you just want to stop by and say hi, that would be great. You can leave a message in the comments and I'll try to respond as I'm weaving. I'm going to go ahead and get started here, and I'll tell you about a few things that I have sitting next to me as I am working. I have some shuttles that are loaded with my yarn, and I also have scissors, my yarn needle, a knitting stitch counter, which might seem kind of unusual, but I'm using it because I also have a written copy of kind of the design that I'm making, and I can keep track of the rows or the repeats of the pattern as I'm weaving. Hi, Joe's Crochet. How are you doing today? So let's get started. So I'd love to know, as I'm working here, I'd love to know what projects you are working on today. I've actually really been enjoying weaving lately. I'm kind of new to it. It's not I'm more of a knitter than anything, but I've been enjoying weaving because it's just kind of a nice, relaxing project that I don't necessarily need to put a whole lot of thought into. And I can just relax and watch the colors and feel the motion of the heddle as I'm working. And it's just kind of fun. Hey Ruth, how are you doing? Oh, and Diana is one of my real life friends. Hi, how are you doing today? We missed you yesterday at our virtual chat with our group from our yarn shop has been meeting on Friday afternoons online, and it's been a lot of fun to see everybody since we can't hang out in real life right now. Hi, Sandy. You're not done with your humongous blanket yet, Sandy? I know you've been working on that for a few days. The dish towels I'm making here are actually probably going to be a holiday gift, I think. We'll see. The colors are pretty, but they're not really the colors in my kitchen necessarily. But I may as well get a jump start on some of my holiday making while I'm hanging out at home anyway. Hey, Susan. Spinning roving. So yeah, I got fancy this week while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to share here as a project that I could work along and do. If you were with me last week, I had some camera issues, especially at the beginning, and I wasn't exactly thrilled with my camera setup. So this week I spent some time doing a little bit of research, trying to embrace new technology, and figured out how to set up two cameras, which I think is kind of cool because then, you can see that there's an actual live person, but you can see what I'm doing as well. So this might be something I have to try to incorporate in my normal knitting tutorials. Yes, Ruth noticed my quirks here on my needle and my scissors. Keep it on my scissors so that I don't stab myself accidentally as I'm working, and it helps me keep track of my needle so that I don't lose it and drop it or whatever. It's easy to see and keep track of, and I don't poke myself either. I have to count every once in a while to make sure I'm doing okay. Multitasking and talking and working like this is not something that comes natural for me. Usually I need a little bit more focus. So where are you guys all watching from today? I know I see a lot of my local friends here that I know are in Tucson, but if you're someplace else, where are you? What's the weather like today? We're lucky here in Tucson. The weather has been absolutely beautiful. So it's a good time to get out and sit on the patio and work out there when possible. Vancouver, that's a long way away from us. It's a beautiful area though. I've seen pictures. Never been there, but I've seen pictures. Got worried there that I had too many rows in that white section. So yesterday on Instagram, somebody sent me a message with a cool link that you guys might be interested in if you're sitting around and need something to just take your mind off stuff. Somebody sent me a link to the Monterey Bay Aquarium on YouTube. So check out their channel sometime. Right now they are live streaming a bunch of their exhibits. And the jellyfish one to me was just mesmerizing. I sat yesterday afternoon and watched it for about 20 minutes because it was so nice just to watch something calm and nice and happy and somewhat normal. "40 degrees in Oklahoma." That seems a little bit chilly for this time of year, but maybe I'm wrong. It's hard to tell. We're here in Tucson. April is kind of when things start to warm up. So we're looking at 80s today. And yet here I am still wearing a sweater. So Laura, what are you working on today? Hey Rebecca, my loom is a shacked cricket loom, and it's 15 inches wide. And my friend Sandy gave it to me about a month or two ago, and I am really enjoying it. It's really good for beginners, I think. And yes, Sandy, I am going to weave my, well, no, I'm going to weave my ends in here when I finish my section and when I'm about to advance the fabric on the rollers. Hey, Julie. Yeah, this is actually, last week I put the warp on my loom for doing 3 towels, and this is actually the second one of the 3. So I'm hoping maybe by the end of the weekend I can finish all 3. We'll see. I might take my loom outside later for some weaving in the sunshine. Now, Julie, I'm curious, you must be a University of Nebraska fan. I have to admit that many, many years ago, I graduated from the University of Nebraska in Lincoln when my husband was stationed at Offutt Air Force Base. It was like, seems like a million years ago. The winters there were brutal. I need my Tucson sunshine. Oh, Ruth, we'll probably get to the point here that I'm weaving in the sides before I sign off today, so you can check it out. Rebecca, listen to your knitting and spinning group. Take up weaving. It's a lot of fun, and then you can use, the yarn that you've been spinning. It's funny how our friends talk us into doing all of these different crafts. Once you get into one fiber art, it seems like you get dragged into more, but that's a good thing. Julie, a nurse, you must be busy right now then. All right, so let's weave in a few of these ends before I advance my loom. That's where the needle comes in handy. I'm just really going over, under for about an inch, just to tuck in that tail on the side. And I just want to be careful as I'm pulling the yarn through that I don't draw in the side at all. And then I'm going to trim my tail to about an inch long. I'm not going to trim it all the way down to the edge at this point. I like to wash it first to make sure this all gets tightened up, and then I will trim it down to the fabric so that it's close and isn't popped out. Again, just kind of using my needle to weave it through those warp threads on the side. And then trim it to about an inch or so, just so it doesn't get caught up. Thank you, Sandy. I feel like I've been working hard on my salvages. I was not super neat at the beginning, but I guess it's something that just kind of comes with practice. It's kind of like keeping your tension, I think, in knitting and crochet, that your stitches aren't too tight or loose, getting these salvages right so they're not too tight or loose. And for me personally, the more or the less I think about those things and just kind of let it happen, the less problems I have. Because when I'm obsessed and worried about the salvages or my tension when I'm crocheting or knitting, that's when bad stuff happens. And I start overcompensating and either making my stitches or my edges too tight or too loose. So I'm curious, Susan, since you trim yours down all the way before washing, after you wash them, do they pop out at all? I haven't really tried it that way yet. So now I'm going to advance. There's not really enough room here for me to keep weaving without my shuttle like getting tight up against the reed. So I'm going to advance the fabric. So you unloose some things on the side here. And then there's a little break in the back. And then use the handle to roll the fabric in. Nice and even. And then I put the break down in the front. And put the break down in the back. And then I'm going to tighten up the warp in the back. When you wash the fabric, it does shrink up a little bit, and I wish I had a before and after sample handy next to me here. Because when you take this off the loom, because the warp threads are under tension, the fabric itself looks pretty open. You can see through the holes, at least with the yarn that I'm using. It might be different with something else. And then when you wash it, everything tightens up nicely, so you have a nice firm fabric. And again, different things can happen depending on the fiber you're using and how much stretch and how tight you have everything. Shrinkage is interesting too when you're weaving, because my loom here is 15 inches wide. And you can see even from the front, or from the back to the front, my fabric here that I've woven is, even though this is 15 inches, this is a little bit less than 15 inches. And then when I take it off the loom, it shrinks up a little bit more, and then when I wash it, it shrinks up a little bit more. So when I got done with my sample set of towels, it ended up that they were probably about 13.5 to 14 inches wide after I got completely done and washed everything, instead of the 15 inches that across that I warped. So I'm trying to figure out what project I want to do on next week's live video. Is there anything in particular you guys would like to see me demonstrate so that you can ask questions as I'm working? And a lot of you know I do a lot of knitting tutorials, so I'm happy to do something in knitting. But I also spin, or we could do some more weaving. And I can spin either on a spinning wheel or a drop spindle. So if there's something you'd like to see, let me know, and maybe I can try that next week. Do I have a textiles degree? No. I actually, believe it or not, even though I've never used it in its truest form, have a degree in mechanical engineering. Reverse knitting, I could do that. Any other ideas? Oh, another reverse knitting. I know why Sandy wants to learn about reverse knitting. Reverse knitting is when instead of knitting from right to left, you are knitting from the left to the right so that you don't have to turn your work at the end of the row. You work across one row from right to left, and then you work across the next row from left to right. And it's not incredibly difficult physically, but mentally it's a little bit of a challenge because you're doing everything backwards of what you're used to. No, Julie never worked for the Corps of Engineers. Oh, see, I'm seeing a lot of reverse knitting and drop spinning. Well, maybe I'll have to do a week of reverse knitting and then I can do drop spinning the next week or vice versa. Reverse knitting is good for short rows because you don't have to turn things over at the end of every row. Another time I like reverse knitting, I use it when I'm doing entrelac. I did a great big entrelac shawl a while ago. And for me, there were so many short little sections of it, it was worth reverse knitting some of them. So since I see a lot of my real life friends on here too, I know what you guys are doing. But I'm curious if anyone else out there, are you getting together and meeting virtually right now with any groups, or is your yarn shop having group get-togethers online right now? Reverse knitting, you guys, okay, I will give it a try. You're going to have to be patient with me. How do I keep my spinning consistent? Okay, it's sort of like how I manage my tension and how I keep my salvages even. I try not to think about it because the more I think about keeping it consistent, the worse it gets. So if any of you do end up doing video chats with your guild or your yarn shop or even just your friends, and I'm going to put a note about this in my email newsletter that I send out to my subscribers, my email subscribers on Fridays, I would love to stop by and visit your virtual yarn shop group or your virtual guild group or even your virtual friends group. So you can email me, and my email is on my website. You can find links everywhere there. And have your group leader email me, and I would love to stop by and stitch with you. See, this is one of the things I love about weaving. You just get a nice motion and flow to it. Lag between the audio and video. Okay, there shouldn't be, although you guys probably could tell me better, because I've just been experimenting with this week, there shouldn't be lag between the picture of me in the corner and the sound. However, my camera that's mounted above me does have about a 1 second delay to what I'm doing, and probably a little bit more delay when it's streaming. I think if I was filming instead of streaming, that I could probably actually plug my camera into my computer so that I could avoid that lag. But I'm not sure. Like I said, I've been learning new things this week too. So the live stream is kind of a new thing for me. It's something that I've been considering doing for a while, but kind of felt unsure about myself and wasn't sure that I wanted to give it a try, but this seemed like a good opportunity to learn new things and get out of my comfort zone a little bit. So as I'm wrapping up here, did anyone have anything inspiring or good happen to them this week? Or maybe a resource you'd like to share, or a funny video, or a knitting pattern that you're enjoying? Just something nice to cheer us up here at the end of our session and look forward to the next week. Hey Sandy, maybe we need to figure out a way to do something together to live stream, like with a video meeting. I've seen a few of my online friends doing it, but haven't tried it yet. Hi Peggy, did you get all your yard work done? And I'd just like to give a shout out to our friend Marie too. I don't know if she's watching this or not. We told her about it, but if she's out there watching, hello Marie. We miss you. You're the best storyteller in our group. The Holderman family on YouTube. I'll have to check that out this weekend. I'm going to weave in some more tails here. and then I can advance my loom. And I had my nice thing that happened this week was I got a message from one of my friends in Portugal, and I was stressing a little bit, and she just said it's going to be okay. And that just kind of felt good. Well, guys, I am going to sign off for now. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and whatever craft you're viewing or craft you're doing. If you want to see more of my project here and what I'm doing, other stuff I'm working on, make sure to check out my Instagram page. I'm at the Chili Dog on Instagram as well. And until next week, I hope you have a good one. And y'all talk me into it. I'll try doing reverse knitting next week. And have a wonderful afternoon.